in addition to the other problems,
because
he's been overstating his military rank.
Right. You're not. You're a retired master sergeant. You literally played one on TV. You basically, and now we look at his NGB 22.
What's that?
Well, that's his discharge document from the National Guard. His date of rank is actually May 1st of 05. He retired on the 16th.
Right.
So he was literally a sergeant major on paper, conditionally promoted for 14 days.
Wow.
And in the Guard world, that may have been 0 days because that may not have coincided with a drill time.
He has said that over and over and over. Called himself a retired command sergeant major.
Yeah.
And we have pushed back against that. We tried doing it, relatively quietly, and we were ignored. This was leading up to the gubernatorial race. If he would have never mentioned the sergeant major thing, we may not really be sitting here.
No, I doubt it.
Well, what about his defenders say he was one for a short time?
Well,
why can't he say I was one?
Well,
he could say I was a command sergeant major who is now retired.
Right.
But he can't say I'm a retired command sergeant major. Who cares?
Well, again, I guess civilians probably don't care, but you should care if you're in the military. It would be, I forget his name, the sergeant major that said this. I wish I came up with this, but when we were in basic training, you're all the same. You're all a bunch of pack of privates. And then somebody's going to be in charge, and you're going to get an armband that says corporal, or you're going to get an armband that says sergeant. And if you get medically hurt and let's say put out of the Army, are you going to say, yeah, I was a sergeant when I was in the Army? No, you played one. You were conditionally promoted for 2 seconds to play one at basic training just to help herd cats. Okay, so now you're out on the street and you're claiming that you were retired something that you weren't.
You guys are retired command sergeant majors.
Yeah, correct.
How much extra training goes in? That's an E9 versus an E8.
Right.
How much extra did you really have to do to get from the E8 to
2 years
E9?
Just to keep it.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. On active duty, if you get selected to be a sergeant major, an E9, we'll just say, then that's a PCS move, a permanent change of station to Fort Bliss. You're going to go to the Sergeant Major's Academy. You're going to be there for a couple of years. Then you're going to graduate, just like graduating from a college. Okay, so then you are officially a sergeant major at that point. If you're on the reserves or you're a SOCOM force, so Special Operations Command, like Delta Force, Green Berets, stuff like that, and National Guard and Reserves, we do a 2-year distance learning course. So we have to do it. It's almost more of a problem because we have to do it at night on our own after we did all other stuff. We're doing it on a computer and doing our classes that way. And then it culminates with like a 2.5 week stint down at Fort Bliss where you do your final papers and stuff like that. And then you're done.
Would it have been nice to be able to skip all of that after 14 days and still have the title?
One day out of every weekend for 2 years that you tell your family, shut up, get away from the office. I got to work this. I got to rehearse my speeches. Yeah. I've got to go through all this.
So when you see somebody saying they are one, when you know they're not one, they didn't do all the sacrifice from the family and the personal time. Well, how does it make you feel?
Well, it burns the Command Sergeant Major Corps, the E9 Corps across all of the military. I think it'd be like I reckoned it to the same as a person that's like in a training to be a doctor. And they frock him. And he can wear doctor whatever badge in the hospital and go through the halls and act like he's a doctor, but he's still in training. And then all of a sudden he decides he drops out of the school because it's too much work. I don't want to do it anymore. But then he still walks through the halls and says he's a doctor. I mean, if a civilian saw that, he'd get thrown in jail. And this guy, he's a military impersonator with that. It's like I'm using. Like you said, he's a retired command sergeant major. He said it so many times that it just makes a person sick hearing it. Yeah, the state of Minnesota said that he can say he served as a command sergeant major, which he's never said, I served as a command sergeant major. He blabs that he was a retired one. And that's where this originally came out with me like in 2015 and 16 because we had a veterans memorial that was getting dedicated, and he came down as the congressman, spoke to the small town, and it was just, I am retired. You've seen all the videos. He said it 6, 7 times. It was in the paper. And a neighbor that sang national anthem, he says, God, I got to meet another command sergeant major. He said, that's 2 of them I've met. And I was like, he's not a retired command sergeant major. I said, he didn't do the school. I went through the same things Paul said. I said, the guy looked at me, he goes, we don't know that. This needs to get out. And I said, well, I figured somebody above me, whether at state level or, somebody would have corrected him and told him, cease and desist from what you're doing. You're lying. You're doing it for political gain. It's making you look better than you are. You're wearing the 12-point rack on your head, but you got Bambi's body basically is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're not that.
Here's back to your friend Adam Smith. And by the way, this guy's the ranking member, meaning the most senior member there is on the Democrat side, because they're not the party in power in the House right now. So he's the ranking member on the Armed Services Committee, speaking to this issue of Walz calling himself a retired command sergeant major. Here, watch it.
He was promoted to be a command sergeant major. So at one point, he served in that rank. Now, the way it works, which is not something that people who aren't familiar with the military would be aware of, you have to do a little bit more to be able to retire at that rank. Okay? So it is not wrong to say that Tim Walz was a command sergeant major. He was. It is wrong to say that he retired at that rank. And that came out a couple of times, and they corrected it. Okay? And you can see where, okay, he's both retired and he was a command sergeant major, but he is not a retired command sergeant major. That is true. And I think that is a very innocent mistake.
You just have to do it. You're laughing.
A little bit.
Why are you laughing?
Yeah.
Paul's not laughing.
He's going to have to touch my.
Yeah, you're okay. Calm down. No, but that's the thing right there. Okay, yeah, it's just an innocent little mistake in there that he did whatever. I wrote this letter to Tim Walz back in 16. I said, thank you for your service. Thanks for what you've done for veterans. Thank you for your 24 years. But I said, you were down here and you were saying you were a retired command sergeant major. You're not. But I had the state command sergeant major personnel officer tell me that he can only say he's a retired master sergeant. It's all out there everywhere.
He was officially demoted, just so people know. It's in paperwork. You can look it up. He was demoted.
Right.
So he tried to retire as a command sergeant major, and they caught him and said, no, that's not what you were. But keep going.
Man to man, I sent this letter to him. It was like soldier to soldier. I was like, give him a chance to just come clean.
Fix it.
What even Van Jones, I think is the guy's name on CNN, said, just come out and have a news conference and come clean so we can get over this, whatever. Hell, he'll never do it. He never did it back then. He could have easily done it. He could have said, yeah, I guess I screwed up. I didn't know I was that. And I think it would have went water under the bridge. That's where Colonel Kolb had to say, well, I sent the letter to the Armed Services Committee then after I never heard nothing back from Tim Walz. And the Ag Committee and everyone he was on, it was like, this guy is lying about his rank. Nobody responded.
He still hasn't responded, which is why we're here together.
Exactly. It's like, what? Well, he never will. He'll have a spokesperson say he misspoke.
Well, so here's what he has said. All right, we're going to play some of his sound here. Where he didn't really address it, but after this all hit, he got out there and did a couple of announcements at various rallies, and we'll take a look at one of them. This is SOT 6 in his rally right after the vice presidential announcement.
My dad served in the Army during the Korean War, and with his encouragement, at 17, I joined the Army National Guard. For 24 years, I proudly wore the uniform of this nation. The National Guard gave me purpose. It gave me the strength of a shared commitment to something greater than ourselves. And just as it did for my dad and millions of others, the GI Bill gave me a shot at a college education.
That was before all the controversy hit. He knew you guys were out there, but that's how he tried to spin it in his first appearance. Like, hey, here I am, National Guardsman, in response to which you felt what?
Well, he
Grab
said,
his leg.
What does grabbing the leg do?
It calms him down.
he just said that it was the biggest commitment, and his exact words, I can't. It was
And he
bigger than
walked out.
himself, right?
Right.
Bigger than himself, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. He's the pinnacle of everything, right? Everything he does and says. A couple of years ago, I did an interview, and in that I said he's a habitual liar. He lies about everything. He lies about stuff that doesn't make sense. And and again, here we got the Chamber of Commerce coming out. Yeah, you were in the Nebraska National Guard. You came to the Minnesota National Guard. Why? I don't know. Let's talk about. He says all these things. Like I was a football coach. You were assistant coach and you were fired because of a DUI that you lied about being deaf on. Okay. To try and get out of whatever you were trying to get out of there. I mean, it's just one habitual lie after another, and they keep piling up. And eventually there's not enough blankets to cover it up.
You heard Adam Smith suggest, there's a couple of times. A couple of times he mistakenly said he was a retired command sergeant major. We put together just our own list that we could find of him saying that he was a retired command sergeant major. It's not just a couple of times. Here's more than that. Insert one.
I'm a retired command sergeant major.
This is Congressman Tim Walz. He's a retired command sergeant major in the Army Artillery.
As a 24-year veteran of the Army National Guard and a retired command sergeant major, I am a retired command sergeant major in the Minnesota National Guard.
I have a unique privilege in Congress, is that by being elected from this district and being a retired command sergeant major, I am the highest ranking enlisted soldier to ever serve in Congress.
As a 24-year veteran of the National Guard and the Red Bull Division and a retired command sergeant major.
Congressman Tim Walz, also a member of the Armed Services Committee and Veterans Affairs, Democrat of Minnesota, highest ranking enlisted soldier ever to serve in Congress. Enlisted in the Army National Guard at 17 and retired 24 years later as Command Sergeant Major and served with his battalion at Operating Enduring Freedom.
Retired out as Command Sergeant Major.
So when you first came to Washington, you were a retired Command Sergeant Major in the Army National Guard.
Oh, yeah.
He misspoke a lot.
He misspoke a lot. A lot. And by the way, just so the record's clear, September 2005, Minnesota National Guard discovered that his paperwork had been filed that was erroneous, saying he was retiring as a command sergeant major, and they updated it to show that he retired as an E8 master sergeant, September 2005.
Correct.
So every single thing we just showed you was after September 2005.
Sure.
He knew that he had been demoted, and he continued to say it over and over. And then there were some vets who went to his office in 2009 to say, stop saying that. Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. By honoring your career calling, you can impact your family, friends, and community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs as of December 2023, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.